For me, it's basically my feet. That's my transportation mode right there. And but the view is beautiful. I mean, check this out. You know, it's gorgeous, gorgeous view, gorgeous view. And there's Vilcabamba. There, walking in. So anyway, I'm gonna go to the bus station and show you that, and then we're gonna talk about transportation and have a little video I made in Loja, kind of put at the tail end of this. So over now at the dude. Okay, here we are at the bus station in Vilcabamba, and there happens to be a red bus and a blue bus. Now, the red bus is a way higher quality bus. Even though the blue bus looks very beautiful, I will guarantee that it's going to fall apart in a couple of years, and they have really crappy drivers. I hate to be opinionated on this, but these Vilcabamba buses are, I think they're made by Mercedes-Benz, a more solid bus. And even that this is an old bus you're looking at, they have newer versions of this. I guarantee that the ride will be way better than that. What looks like a really beautiful bus, it is a piece of crap. Let me tell you, being an engineer, that bus. As a matter of fact, my daughter thought the rack above was going to fall on her head. As we actually drove that last night, it was the most scariest drive because it was raining and wet, and the guy was going like 16 barreling through the mountain curves from Loja to Vilcabamba. So anyway, that's it. That's the bus station here. Get your tickets over there and over here. That's the Vilcabamba bus office right over there. And this is the dude reporting from Vilcabamba. Hey, welcome. This is the dude. I'm going to talk about transportation and getting around. So let's see, where do I start here? Well, my main mode of transportation here is my legs. And I've owned a car like 50 years in the United States, and I haven't owned a car in 3 years. So, with that being said, I am definitely much more healthy than I was in the United States. And I would say that is like the simplest way. If you're living in Vilcabamba and you're just going to Loja occasionally, and basically, unless you're living way outside of Vilcabamba, you don't really need a car. And like we live like 20-minute walk into town, and we take a taxi back. And the taxi back is like $2.50. Then when we go to Loja, it's $1.25, $1.30 per fare to Loja. But since I am over retirement age, it's like half for me. And then my girls, I pay half fare. So it's basically 3 half fares for the 3 of us to go to Loja twice a week for lessons. So that's like less than $2, $1.90. So you can't really beat that as far as getting from one place to the other. So walking, that's what pretty much most of the Ecuadorians do. That's why you don't see too many fat Ecuadorians. I mean, rarely you see an overweight. I mean, little pudgy here and there because of some of the foods they eat, but basically not like in America. I mean, when I was in America, I went to fast food restaurants this last summer, and I just couldn't believe my eyes. I just got used to seeing skinny Ecuadorian people, and even older women, like are shapely and wear tight jeans, and and you can because you're like walking all the time, and food, you're not constantly eating. You have your meals and you pretty much burn it off. So I mean, I can eat butter, and I have occasionally ice cream, occasionally with the girls, and um, you know, I just stay thin because I'm expelling so many calories. So, main transportation mode would be walking and buses and taxis. Now, let me talk about taxis. Kind of get that out of the way. When you get here, there is a bunch of taxistas, as they call them, or cab drivers, taxi drivers that speak English. So if you don't speak any Spanish, you can hook up immediately with some of the English-speaking taxi drivers. At this point, my Spanish is like so, and I'm taking classes and that, and so for me, whether they speak English or Spanish, it doesn't matter because I can speak enough Spanish to communicate. But it's really nice when you first get here because everything is so freaking strange to find an English speaking taxi driver to kind of he'll share a bunch of stuff with you, and you kind of figure out what you need and stuff like that. So taxis to go to Loja, to come and to take you to Loja, or to pick you up in Loja, either way, it's like $20. So that's like just less than an hour drive, maybe 45-minute drive in a taxi. The bus is going to take you an hour and 15 minutes to go via bus from Vilcabamba to Loa or back. So it's good to hook up with a taxi driver that becomes almost part of your family, because in the middle of the night you have an emergency. You can't. As far as I know, there's not an ambulance service here in Vilcabamba that you can call, and so it would be really good to find somebody you really trust and really like, and they become part of your family. And in the middle of the night, if you have a crisis, which we have had, that you can call them, they'll get out of bed and they'll come and get you and take you to the clinic and hospital or to Loja, whatever you need. So with that being said, it's really an important thing to get a good relationship with a number. And the other thing for me, as far as safety, I keep a list of taxi drivers that I use all the time on my phone. We need a four-wheel drive to get up when it's raining, so I have my four-wheel drive taxistas, and I have the regular ones. And I try to stay to a certain number, because you can just go in the middle of town and catch any taxi and take you wherever you want. But for security and safety reasons, I try to develop a relationship with those people I use, and I pretty much use like one or two guys like all the time, and I have some backup in that if they're not available. So I would say that that's a really important thing. Develop taxi driver relationship, part of your family. Unless you're going to have a car yourself, and then you're on your own. Okay, so let's get into buses. The buses, there's really like three of them, two main ones. One I call the red bus, and the blue bus is the second one. And there's also a green bus, which goes further south of Vilcabamba, and it just has some. It's not running every 15 minutes. It's just kind of going by Vilcabamba, and it parks off the main highway there, and you can catch it occasionally. They're pretty ragged, the green buses, so I typically don't take them unless like we're waiting for a bus on the street in Loja, and it's late at night. I'll grab whatever I can get. With that being said, I have some videos here that I played initially when we started this particular recording, and you could see, it's like the Matrix. Take the red pill or the blue pill, and the red bus, I may have talked about this in previous videos, is like a Mercedes-Benz company built those buses, and they're really solid, and they're more compact. Even the older ones or the smaller ones, you know, they're not falling apart. Okay, so the drivers for the red buses, it's called the Vilcabamba bus line, are more seasoned. They're more experienced. They're safer. They drive slower. Occasionally, you'll get a bad one, and I prefer to take the Vilcabamba red bus, you know, all the time, as opposed to the blue bus. And so when you get here, you'll see both buses, and you can, you know, determine for yourself. But the blue buses, they look really big and fancy, but they're really a piece of crap. And they're just, I mean, my daughter the other day was worried because the overhead luggage rack was rattling so bad, it was like it was going to fall. I says, well, if it falls, it's not going to hurt you because the whole thing is contiguous from front to back, and it's just going to hit the top of the seats. But, I mean, it wasn't likely to fall, but it was like falling apart. And you can just hear all the mechanical parts in the bus. You know, things are rattling underneath the bus, and, you know, it's okay, so not only are the buses designed badly, but the bus drivers tend to be younger. They tend to be, to me, less experienced, and most of them drive really crazy. I mean, they're like barreling. I mean, the other night, and I think in my video there I showed how fast, once the one bus was having trouble getting up the hill because it probably was something wrong with the engine, didn't have enough power. So the only reason it was driving slow, the blue bus, was because it couldn't drive faster. But once it got into the city, and it was like straight away, man, it was just barreling through. So they will do that. I mean, late at night, you know, it's pouring rain and there's foggy, and you're going around the edges of the cliffs, and there's no guardrails. Most of the highway, there's no guardrails. So I mean, if you go, there's nothing between you and the ravine, you know, a mile down. So, you know, it's the thing that worries me the most is these freaking buses, and the terrain is, you know, it's like all curves from Vilcabamba to Loja, and so I try not to go in the blue buses only because, you know, like I said, late at night, it's raining, it's foggy, and the thing's barreling through. It's like you're on a freaking ride in Disneyland. Whereas with the red buses, they take it nice and slow. They're very safety conscious. More solid of a bus. I would not imagine that it would, you know, break down because they are well built. Okay, so that's pretty much the bus thing. And like I mentioned, it's $1.25, $1.30, typical adult fare one way. And there's also some taxis that leave out of Vilcabamba to Loja on a regular run that are like $2.25, I think, and they take like 4 people, so the guy makes basically $10 one way. And you can get, you know, so if it's like one is just yourself and you want to get there pretty fast, you can get to the center city a lot faster in one of those. But, you know, for the same amount of money, I can take all 3 of us in and have a lot more room to stretch out and stuff like that. So I rarely take those unless there's kind of like I really got to get there fast. Okay, so that's pretty much the transportation modalities here. You know, one of the other things I want to mention is that the bus will go right to the central station in Loja. But if you're going into the city, it is best to get off at Mercadia, which is one of the stops before the bus station, because otherwise you're going to have to take a taxi, another $2 to get back to the city. So if you get off at Mercadia, you'll be right, you know, a couple blocks from the city, and you can, you know, catch the bus going back home at the same location. So that's one thing you want to note. Taxis are minimum is like $1.25. So you can pretty much, like, if you're in downtown Loja and you want to get to Supermaxi, which is the kind of big grocery store in town, so kind of like a typical grocery store in the United States. If you want to get there from downtown, it's $1.25. Take a taxi. One of the things, when it's raining outside, good luck in trying to find a taxi. We've waited sometimes up to an hour. I mean, I'm talking about there's a lot of taxis in town, and when it's raining, it's everybody's taking the taxis, and it's almost impossible to get one. So that's the only thing to be aware of. Also, if you are looking to travel around Ecuador, of course, bus stations are like airports in Ecuador, and where like every city's got airports and Ecuador basically has bus stations that are like huge and designed. Buses are the main transportation mode for most Ecuadorians. So, say you want to go to Guayaquil or Cuenca, it's 5-6 hour bus ride, maybe cost you $10-15. I'm not sure exactly, but I remember going to Montanita, which is like a surfing town right on the ocean from Vilcabamba. And I recall spending a total of about $105 to get the whole family of 7 of us from Vilcabamba to Montanita. So that's not a bad deal. I mean, if you're trying to, the other thing is, if let's say you're taking flights from Guayaquil or from Quito, it definitely Tame Airlines is the way to go as opposed to bus, because the buses are like 10-12 hours to Quito, and there's been a lot of different situations where there's been robberies in the middle of the night on those buses going to Quito. So I wouldn't even dare think about taking a bus to Quito. And then once you get to Quito, you got to take another taxi. It's like an hour or two outside of the city to the airport. So that's even another expense. This last summer I went with my girls to the United States, and it was like $180 for the 3 of us to fly round trip from Vilcabamba to Quito. And so that's just the way to go. So if you're, catching a flight out of any of the major airports, Tame, or it's Tame, it's pronounced Tame in Espanol, or in English it would be Tame Airlines. That would be the way to go, and never had any problem. Really great airlines. And as far as owning a car, I believe you can use your a driver license from the country you came from for like 6 months. But after that point, you have to get an Ecuadorian driver's license. To own a car is really not that expensive. I mean, I think registration and insurance is like $100 or something. I mean, it's not a lot of money. And many people have said they spoke little Spanish, but they're still able to pass the test. So it's not a big deal passing the driver's test. I don't know too much about it because I haven't done it yet. I would really like to get a car so that I can be free to travel all over. That is kind of the bad thing about just depending on the bus line system, because if you want to really see Ecuador and go to different places, you're really trying to catch buses and buses, and you get stopped, dropped off at whatever spot and you don't know where you're at. So the advantage of having a car, especially if you want to like travel around, I would say that would be like the over the top reason to have a car here. But if you're just coming to live and you want to get to Loja a couple times a week or whatever, like I mentioned, buses like is most simple. And the last thing here, if you really do want to get a car, come with a lot of cash, because cars are 4 or 5 times. I mean, like a kind of a beater car would cost you thousands of dollars here. If you want to get something fairly decent, you're going to easily spend upwards of $10,000. I mean, you might be able to find something for $5,000, and I've seen cars for $5,000. But don't expect to come here and find a car for $1,000. That's not going to happen. So typically, I know some friends of ours have a 4-wheel drive. It's an older car that he says he wouldn't even give away. I mean, he spent like $12,000 for this thing. So basically, if you really want a car, as far as bringing cars into the country, it has to be like, I think, a year, not more than a year or 2 old. So you can't bring a beater car here in the country. And I think the import taxes are pretty high. So, Ecuador is not like the United States, where people have 2 or 3 cars. And like, I went back to the United States and found a car. Like, we were going to be there for 5 weeks, and I found a really great Saturn 2001 or something, for like $800. Excellent car. You'd never find that here. But anyway, in the United States, everybody needs a car because everything is such a distance. Here, it's all about buses. It's all about taxis. That's pretty much the way. I believe, when I read something about Ecuador consumes like 80% less, electricity and oil than, other countries like the U.S., per population. Totally believe that. I mean, I have probably consumed 80% less oil just based on taking buses and taxis versus myself driving a car. So I can see that, and that's pretty much the way it is here. So when you come here, totally different thing. Anyway, this is a dude. Hope you've enjoyed this. Not a whole lot to say about transportation. Like I said, it's pretty straightforward. If you have any comments or questions, leave them below. Take care. Signing out. Hey again. The video that follows here, I'm going to kind of set it up a little bit. So if you got all the information you need, you can just click off. But if you want to watch some additional video I made of traveling to Loja, check out the beautiful scenery, see what it feels like to be on the bus. I am trying to narrate while we're driving. However, it's kind of difficult to hear me. But the point I'm kind of making is about guardrails and how in some cases there are a few guardrails here or not, and basically none most of the way. And so you're really relying on these bus drivers to be safe. And there's a section there with the gravel, and you can see how easily you can slide off the edge. And so I think that's just something, it worries me, but so far so good. We try to pick, like I said, we typically ride the red bus, although at the very end of the video I'm going to show a ride on the blue bus, and you can see how even though the bus was going pretty slow, it was only because it had some problems in getting up the mountain around the passes and that. And was laboring a lot. So I think that kind of accounted for this particular blue bus not going very fast. So it's quite a bit of video. Perhaps you will enjoy the scenery and kind of see what it feels like, or at least looks like, to drive on a bus from Vilcabamba and Loja. So enjoy. We're going out of town, and on the Vilcabamba bus, and we are going to be passing the clinic to give you an idea how far the clinic is from the town. This is the outskirts of the town. And see beautiful mountains in Vilcabamba. Here we are on the Vilcabamba bus. It is about 1 o'clock, and you can see a lot of school kids coming on the bus about this time. And just leaving Vilcabamba, actually we're in San Pedro, and we're headed on our way to Loja. And there's two of my girls resting as we proceed on our trip to Loja. This is about 5 minutes out. You can see Vilcabamba way down in the valley there. There is Vilcabamba. Let's see. Let's see it. There it is. Okay. Anyway, on our way to Loja. We're coming into Malacatos. This is the stop of the bus. Okay, on the bus, Malacatos. Malacatos here. See the church? There. We are leaving Malacatos, headed for Loja. Probably the extent of guardrails, if you want to call it that. You can see a little scenic view of houses along the cliff here. I think the only reason they have these little bumps, or if you want to call them guardrails, is to protect the bus from smashing into somebody's house. Other than that, there's not a whole lot between you and the bottom of that ravine. As you can see. Hey, that's probably the only guardrail I've seen. Maybe there's two along this highway. You got some more guardrail. This is quite interesting. Typically, not a whole lot. As you can see, This is the problem with the blue bus, is they'll just plow through this at 60 miles an hour. And the red bus will take their time, because you can easily slide off this gravel here. Down, 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 down there. So you're on this gravel road. And here we go. Now, look at that. Look at that down there. Look at this. You know, one mistake. Boom, you're over the cliff. Now, this is the problem I have, like I said, with the blue bus, is that they will like fly through these sections, and the red bus drivers are much older and more wiser, and that's why we don't take the blue bus. Okay, this video coming up is we had the opportunity one afternoon to get on the blue bus, and wanted to I intentionally got on it because I wanted to do some recording. The bus was actually my one daughter gave it a thumbs down, the other one kind of gave it a half thumb, because it was actually riding slow and safer than usual, but the even though it was riding slower, it was only because it had like mechanical problems and it didn't have the power to go zipping around the curves like most of them do. So you'll see that in the video, and that's it. After that, thank you very much. Leave your comments. We're on the blue bus here. You guys, hello? Hello? On the blue bus. What do you think of the blue bus? Yeah? Uh-oh, we got a thumbs down. Blue bus? Thumb sideways? I thought you never want to go on the blue bus.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, but I mean, this one's kind of good, but...
This one actually is kind of good. I was hoping to get some really bad video of the blue bus. But this one, this guy is actually going slow. It's amazing. Maybe he been watching my YouTube videos and how terrible the blue buses are. So anyway, this is the blue bus. And as you can see, no guardrails. No guardrails. Ride this time, but this is not typical. It's usually the opposite. Nothing else, you can see how precarious this drive can be, and especially if the bus is zipping around here in the rain. You hear this bus laboring. This is what I'm talking about as far as being a really crappy designed bus. This bus is really laboring up the hill. Probably why it's going slow. It's got some issues. We're also behind this truck, which creates trouble. around these sharp corners. Yes, this blue bus definitely had some power issues. It's having to ride in low gear to try to get up this mountain. And that's usually not the case with these guys. But anyway, this is a good view of whoa. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Right there. This is like a top-heavy bus. It doesn't have the power. It rocks all over the place. And as you can see, this thing is all over. You can hear it grinding away, trying to get up. Now we're on the gravel. Fortunately, the truck in front of us decided to go slow, and there's also another truck coming on this side. And there's a truck in front of us. And the road is gravel, so we got all the bad conditions. Yeah, this is you remember we were on the red bus and we had this same exact spot. Okay, you see, oh shit. Yeah. Okay, here's exactly what I'm talking about. See, he's like zipping over this. Okay, so that was zipping over the gravel. And a bus that's having a hard time trying to get up. See it? Having a hard time zipping over gravel, having a hard time with the engine. This is why we don't ride this bus. Exactly. I'm glad I was able to get this video. So do you hear this? You hear this bus? Now there it goes. You hear it, transmission slipping. Trying to get up the mountain. This bus is doomed as far as having any longevity. This bus doesn't have power. It's poorly designed, and it is the reason. You can hear it. You can hear them just running high RPMs just to get up a little incline. Okay? And this is what I wanted to talk about, and I'm glad I was able to capture on film. You know, the red buses just zip up these things, and they take it very safely, but this bus here is laboring, and we're going to be late for their lessons because this bus has issues. And even though he was driving slow, the reason he was driving slow is because he doesn't have the power to like zip around. So otherwise, these drivers in the blue bus just zip up and down these without any regard to safety. All right, so that's all. He's gonna try to climb up this hill here. You can hear the engine just winding away. Over and out, the dude. This is what I'm talking about. This is the blue bus. He's on a flat terrain. And you see, the only reason he was going slow is because he went too fast. But if they go to the left, the other But I'm glad I caught that moment of speed, because that's how they typically are when they're going through the mountains. So over and out, the dude. Time to unload. And this, hey, you got a chance to listen to the music, the Ecuadorian music. So this is what you'll be hearing when you're riding the bus. Come on, darling. Gracias.
Okay.
Ah, ciao. And there goes the red bus. And this drops off right into town, into the central part of Loja.